It's the night before the World Series, and all through the house, no one is stirring except for the Locked On Astros podcast. And we are so excited because it's about to be game day, and we've been waiting all year for this. And we're going to talk about, would you bet for the Astros? Do the odds favor the Astros? We'll talk about Dave from BetOnline.AG, and we'll see what he has to say about the Astros winning the World Series or not on this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talks Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can they find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter and Astros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive. It's an odd number year. Always Stros.
All right, so we have a special guest. We're just going to call him Dave. So I'm going to go ahead and pull him up. Dave, I guess they can't find you on Twitter, but where can they find BetOnline.AG at?
BetOnline.AG, and you can find me on Twitter at Dave Mason, BOL. I work for BetOnline.AG, one of the biggest online sports books out there, and we're excited to have World Series Game 1 right at tomorrow, starting tomorrow. Can't wait.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about. I don't know about if you're excited about this, but the Astros are back in the World Series. I don't know if a lot of people were betting on the Astros getting here to this point, but it just seems like a lot of people are saying, well, it doesn't seem like the best teams are in the World Series this year. That maybe the Dodgers should have gone, maybe the Red Sox should have gone, but it's the Astros versus the Braves, and so this is probably two teams that I know they have a lot of history. And I know that the current Braves, I guess the roster, they don't have a lot of experience. I know they did almost beat the Dodgers last year in the Mickey Mouse season, I guess we could call it. But then the Dodgers went on to win the World Series last year. But I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about what's going on with some of the odds. So the Astros overall odds, I want to talk first of all about the series odds, then we'll talk about the Game 1 odds. So according to BetOnline.AG, the Astros series prices right now are negative 140 that they're going to win the World Series. What do you look at? What as a company or what do y'all look at to make these determinations?
Our power rankings and all the math set behind it, the pitching matchups, just everything. This tells us that the Astros are slightly better than the Braves right now. Minus 140, that's a small favorite as far as series prices goes. The take back on the Braves is plus 120. So, there's not a huge advantage here either way. The championship series prices were a lot greater, especially the Dodgers Braves. That was a lot steeper. So, we're excited about this World Series. Anytime you come in the World Series and the series price is darn close to a coin flip, that just makes things that much more exciting. And the likelihood, of course, it's not always the case, but the likelihood that the series goes longer, that the matchups are better, a lot closer, than hopefully get 6-7 games out of it, and that's just more games for people to bet at BetOnline.
Yeah, so that just means that it's probably better for both sides, because if you have a clear, huge favorite, someone is just the dead on, they're going to come out and just beat the pants off the other team, it's probably better for the sports betting world if there is a more even matchup. And it seems like on paper, when you look at a lot of position players, that a lot of them, one team or the other gets the edge, but the edge is not that much more than the other.
No, absolutely. But then, and again, you we just look back at this National League Championship Series, and the Dodgers are a much bigger favorite. Everybody already had the Dodgers penciled into the World Series, defending champs, loaded lineup. But now the Braves did it, and that was a really good result for the house too. So can't complain there. But no, this is a great matchup, and the action's been awesome all postseason long, and we expect the great action all throughout the World Series.
I don't know if that's something. I know Lance McCullers. The news was pretty much. I know it came out today that he's out for the rest of the World Series, and there's a lot of rumors before this, a lot of whispers that he wasn't going to pitch in a World Series. Does that at all affect the odds in predicting the
Yeah,
World Series?
absolutely. If he's pitching, like I said, the series price right now on the Astros is -140. If he's healthy and ready to go, we're talking about the Astros being probably about -160. So that impacted him not playing impacted the series odds about 20 cents. So that's pretty significant.
Now, does it change as much going from series to series here in the playoffs? Is my first question, and my second question is, where were the Astros at the beginning of the season as favorites to win the World Series compared to when we got towards the end of the season?
Oh boy, what were we at the beginning of the season? I think right around 16, 17, 18 to 1, I believe. I'm
Hmm.
not exactly sure. What I can tell you is they're a good result for us. Both they and the Braves are good results. We're glad both those teams knocked out the Red Sox and the Dodgers, because those are much they would have been wins for us, but not as profitable as either of the two teams. So no matter which team wins this World Series, our World Series futures, it's a really good result for the house. Now, what was your first question? I'm sorry.
It was just how much do they change from series to series? I mean, I guess it just depends on team performance.
You mean the World Series odds?
Yeah, well, from like ALDS to
Yeah.
ALCS to World Series, does it change much, or does it? I guess it all depends on
Oh,
the opponent, right?
well, yeah. I mean, it changes a ton. It changes a ton because there's just fewer teams, right? And I forget what the heck the Astros odds were to start the ALCS. I'm thinking probably about plus 400, 4 to 1. Just thinking off the top of my head, probably plus 350. 4 to 1, something like that. And now they're -140 favorite. So, it's to combine things. They're taking two teams out of it. So now it's just a 2-horse race instead of a 4-horse race. And they're the favorites. So, their World Series odds are essentially just the series price now, which again is -140.
All right, so I know that you're looking at I guess the power rankings and everything, but how much do you take in consideration, especially with the Astros, who have a DH, somebody like Jordan Alvarez, who
Hmm.
has played some left field, but when you go play those 3 games in Atlanta, I mean, he may
Sure.
be playing outfield, but he may be sitting on the bench. How much does that affect the calculations?
It does. It has an impact. And I mean, it's not a huge impact, but probably, 5 to 10 cents on a game. When I'm talking cents, I'm talking about, if they would be -140 with them, they'd be -135 or -130 without him. So without a doubt, the DH has an impact, but that works both ways, right? I mean, they have the
Right.
advantage at home, and they have the disadvantage on the road. So that's kind of why home field advantage is so, just another factor why home field advantage is so important in baseball now.
So when talking about considering the odds with the DH, now what about the consideration of the experience, where the Astros have the most experience game wise in the World Series? In the playoffs, they have
Right.
almost 300 games under their belt. Versus the Braves, they have two players, Charlie Morton, who actually I think is interesting. He closed out the 2017 World Series, and he's starting the 2021 World Series against his old team he won with, and Jock Peterson, who obviously has World Series experience with the Dodgers. How much does that factor into the betting lines when you have an inexperienced team versus an experienced team, or is that a non-factor?
It's close to a non-factor. I mean, I'll refer to the NLCS once again. The Braves just took out the favorites, the defending champs, etc. So it's sure the World Series is a little bit is a bigger stage, but these guys are professionals, and they just they were very convincing in the NLCS, so they deserve to be there. They know it, we know it, so yeah, not much of a factor.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Braves just had the right parts for their bullpen, and it kind of made them beat Goliath. And it's kind of like going to rockauto.com. So, Brett, tell us a little bit about rockauto.com.
Yeah, so rockauto.com is a family-owned business. They've been around for 20 years. And if you're tired of going to an auto parts store and getting upcharged because you're not a mechanic and you're tired of paying 30, 50, sometimes 100% more than you would normally pay at rockauto.com, then stop doing that. Stop going through the painstaking process of going to a dealership or your local storefront. Go to rockauto.com from the convenience of your phone or your computer. You can look up any make, any model. And Dave, this goes for you too, because we're just three regular guys on here talking sports and talking sports betting, but we have regular issues like brake issues, or sometimes we got a bad windshield wiper, or who knows, maybe Dave may have this sweet ride with carpet on the inside that he needs replaced. RockAuto.com has that as well. And so go to RockAuto.com. They have all the parts you'll ever need. They have an amazing website. It's a great interface. You'll have to check it out. It is easily navigable. When you go to RockAuto.com, when you get to the "How did you hear about us" box, type "Locked On" to let them know that we sent you. Reliably low prices, all the parts you'll ever need for your car or truck at RockAuto.com.
And guys, thank you for making the Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether that's on YouTube. Make sure you go subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you give us some likes. And just remember, when we post a video from the MLB insiders and they predict that the Braves are going to win in 6, that does not mean you need to go ahead and dislike it. But we had no control over that. But go ahead, make sure you keep on subscribing and liking our audio versions, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you keep on listening to Locked On Astros podcast. So, Dave, I want to go ahead and address the kind of the big elephant in the room, and that's the run line, the money line, and the total line. So I know that there's a lot of average or novice bettors out there who probably don't know what some of these numbers mean. Can you kind of walk us through what these mean?
Absolutely. Money line. Let's do that first. That's without a doubt the most popular way to bet on MLB. Basically, the money line is simple. It's who is going to win the game, period. It doesn't matter by how many runs, none of that. Doesn't matter. Combined runs, nothing. Who's going to win? It doesn't matter. Scores 1-0 or 20-2. It does not matter who wins the game. So you're going to see odds. So, for example, game 1, the Braves are plus 120 underdogs, while the Astros are minus 130 favorites. What does that mean? Let's go with the Astros first. Minus 130 favorites. That means if you're a $100 better, basically, you would have to risk $130 to profit $100. So you're going to be risking more than your potential win. That's because you're the favorite. Now, if you're the betting on the underdog Braves, their odds are plus 120. So you would risk $100 to profit 120. So your profit is more than what you'd be risking. So that's the incentive to bet the underdog. That's kind of how you even things out there. So that's the money line. Again, that's the most popular way to bet on MLB. Second most popular is the total, right? Game 1, over under 8.5 runs. All that means is how many total runs are going to be scored in the game. And when I'm saying total runs, I'm talking about the Braves and the Astros combined. It doesn't matter how many each scored. Just add them up, and over under 8.5 runs. So if the final score is 5-4, the Astros, that's 9 runs the over cashes. If the final score is 5-3, the Astros, that's 8 runs. So the under would cash under 8.5 runs. So you just take that over under 8.5 runs, and over 8.5, 9 or more, the over wins. 8 or fewer, the under wins. And that those over-under runs will vary game to game, usually depending on the pitching matchup. Pretty much, the last one is the run line. So what the run line is, this is pretty much like a spread in football and basketball, except it's always set for MLB at plus or minus 1.5 runs. Game one, the Astros are minus 1.5 run favorites, where the Braves are plus 1.5 underdogs. So basically, the Astros are giving the Braves 1.5 runs. So if the Astros win 1-0, the Braves win that bet because you're getting plus 1.5 runs. So for the Astros run line bets to be winners, they have to win by 2 or more runs. Now the Braves, if they win outright or lose the game by 1 run, their run line bets are winners. So those are the 3 basic ways, the most popular ways to bet on MLB, but there's all sorts of other ways, the props and live betting and team totals and everything.
So would there be any type of betting on like missed calls by umpires or anything like that? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
kidding.
we have all sorts of stuff. I mean, we have this player prop software that might not be in there, but there's just it's endless, the kind of stuff, at bats and hits, and just every player has
Right.
all sorts of different props attributed to him. So, and the live betting is great. Once the game starts, you can bet on the odds throughout the game, so that just keeps you in the action all game long if you so choose.
So as a math teacher, my students always ask how much math goes into like into real life, and so how much math goes into like these predictions. I know you say the standings and the power rankings, but how much actual math goes into it?
It's all based on math. It's all about the number. I mean, that's it's all about projections and probabilities and formulas and everything. I mean, this whole business is just geared on math. If your math is off, the people that are very good at math will pick you apart and beat the heck out of you. So your math's got to be spot on, because if it's off, those big bettors, what we call sharps, those are the guys that are really good at math, and they have a lot of money. So if your math is off and they have it, it's almost like a card counter. The card counters in blackjack, they're just trying to get 1% edge in their favor. If you're giving these guys 1 to 2 to 3% edge in their favor, they're going to beat the tar out of you. So it's all based on math.
I'm gonna cut that out and play it from now. Just kidding. So Brett, you got one last question?
I just want to ask if so, when we're looking at the Astros offense, which has been an absolute juggernaut this year, are there probably going to be a lot of props and a lot of opportunities for Astros fans to bet on home runs by the Astros, extra base hits, runs scored in late innings, stuff like that we've seen in the first 2 playoff series?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I was saying earlier, our player prop software, we have a software that's just dedicated to props on all sports, and you just go in there. You can actually customize your own props. Look at a player and how many hits you want, and you plug it in there, and we'll spit out the odds. So, you go in there, and it's the combinations are just endless on what we offer in the player prop software. I mean, game props. How many hits, pitchers, home run hits plus runs plus RBIs, strikeouts, head-to-head matchups, and what player's going to do better, home runs, you name it, it's in the player prop software.
I want to ask you this. Now, I'm not going to say a particular app, but why is it better for someone to go with BetOnline.AG versus one of these pop-up apps that comes up during the World Series, giving you 4 or 5 things you can pick, and at random, if you pick them
Right.
all or if you pick the most, you get money? Like, why should someone go to BetOnline.AG instead of one of these pop-up shop gimmicky,
Right.
using the World Series to their advantage?
Well, there's so many new books out there now, and there's a lot of good ones. I'm not going to say that we're the best, we're always the best, but we have a great baseball product. We have a great product. For one, we open our odds up on baseball and most of the big North American sports, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, before any other book. And why is that an advantage? The opening odds, the odds that come out first, are always the softest. By the time the game starts, those odds have been the math is all all these math guys are betting the heck out of it, and by the time those odds are closed and the game starts, those odds are impossible to beat long run. But the earlier the odds are up, the more advantage to the player. So that's one thing. Our odds open before every other book. Secondly, for MLB, there's something that called dime lines. What are dime lines? It's for that. Remember that money line I was talking about, where it's minus 130 plus 120 on game one. That's called a dime line. There's only a 10 cent straddle between minus 130 and plus 120. Now, most books do a 20-cent straddle where it would be minus 140 plus 120. So you got to pay more basically. And people think, it's just one bet, no big deal. But over a long season like baseball, that saves you so much money, that those dime lines. So those are two huge advantages. Other stuff, we don't kick out winners. A lot of these books, if players beat the book, these books kick these players out. They just want guaranteed losers in these shops. We're not like that. We want sharp action. We want winning players. We like volume. We want as much money coming in betting these games. We don't care if it's a recreational guy just betting once in a while, or some sharp guy betting 5 figures on a game every day of the week. We want volume, so we respect sharp action. We book it. A lot of other books don't do that. They boot the heck out of these guys. They want nothing to do with them. And last but not least is our payouts. Our payouts are without a doubt the fastest in the industry. I mean, our crypto payouts, people are getting their winnings if they want to cash out within minutes. So, I mean, we've been in the business for 20 plus years. We're not one of these new books that are still figuring things out. And again, some of these new books are good and all, they're reputable. But we've been through the wars, man. We booked this stuff before. We know what's going on. We've been doing it for as long, if not longer, than 99% of the books.
Yeah. So guys, this is Dave from BetOnline.AG. They are predicting the Astros are going to win Game 1, and not only Game 1, but they're predicting that the Astros are going to win the World Series. So once again, where can they find you on Twitter? Where can they find BetOnline.AG?
BetOnline.AG. Come on over and bet the World Series with us, or football, basketball. It's a sports equinox now, man. We got every sport in session, so it's the busiest time of year for us. And if you like sports, we got odds for you right now. As far as me, Dave at Dave Mason BOL. Come over and follow me, and let's talk sports and gambling.
All righty. Well, thank you for joining us, and maybe we'll catch up a little bit later on this week to see how the series is going and seeing if the odds have changed and all that. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully the odds are in the Astros' favors.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. You know what, Brett? It kind of brings me up. I mean, I know we've heard a lot of BetOnline.AG, but go and tell us a little bit more about BetOnline.AG.
So we're back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season, and more props, odds, and lines like ever before. Like you heard Dave, they've got the software to show you who to bet, when to bet, why to bet, and what is going to happen. Not necessarily predicting the end, but telling you who is the favorite, who's the underdog. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all basketball and football action this season and baseball postseason. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile device website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code Locked On to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, baseball, postseason, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Alrighty, so guys, let's go and talk about this game. I don't know if you know about it, but we have a game today. If you're listening to it on Tuesday, and it's a big game. It's gonna be Framber Valdez versus Charlie freaking Morton. Can we still call him that? I mean, he is the enemy now. Can we still call him that?
I wouldn't call him Charlie freaking Morton because I think that was a name that was endeared to him as an Astro. I'm just going to call him Charlie Morton because he no longer has superpowers because he doesn't pitch for the Houston Astros. No, I'm joking. I mean, there are a lot of people that have a lot of heartstrings that are being tugged because he's starting. But Eric, let's be honest. This Astros team has handled Mr. Morton since he has left the Astros anytime they faced him, especially when he was with the Rays.
Yeah, they faced
You
him
know,
twice. I mean, this is third time in the past 3 years that he's faced them in the playoffs. It's
yeah,
first time in the World Series, though.
it is. And, it's always different. Teams come to play, kind of like Dave from BetOnline.AG said, it's the World Series. And even though everyone may not have expected the Houston Astros or the Braves to be in the World Series, which I believe a lot of Astros fans expected us to be, even with our beleaguered regular season where it seemed to be a struggle at times. Charlie Morton's going to come to pitch. He's going to bring his A game. He is your consummate professional. And let's just hope that the Astros know him well enough and that he hasn't fine-tuned enough so that the hitters can be on top of it. Because I really think it's important, Eric, for the Astros to get off the launch pad, to quote a Houston moniker, of taking off in this World Series and leading a charge with Framber Valdez, who needs, I think, a convincing start like he had last game, and they take care of Morton, sit him down early. I think that bodes well for the Astros. And to me, I see a clear path to victory, but things have to definitely go the Astros' way.
Charlie Morton said that being back in here in Houston and having played with a few of those guys over there and having gone through a lot with some of those guys over there, and at the stage we're on here, those are things I'm aware of. But I'll try to focus on the things that I would usually focus on during start and try not to let that distract me. Altuve said that the best you can ever have on Charlie Morton. He's that good. He's amazing. I only have good things to say about him. And Bregman said Charlie's amazing. He's one of everybody's favorite teammates of all time. There's a reason, because he's such a great guy. And he signed a $15 million deal following 2-year deal with the Rays. He signed that $15 million deal with the Braves this year. Now he's in the World Series. And so it just seems like wherever Charlie Morton goes, the team goes to the playoffs. And so
Right.
I
No, and
think that the Astros would have loved to have him, definitely with the pitching issues they've had this year. But at the same time, like you said, they've kind of handled him over the past couple of years.
they have, and Morton's had kind of an up and down season. If I'm thinking back on this season that he's had with the Braves, and when the Astros let him go, I think there were two factors. One, I think they weren't too sure about his injuries and
Right.
how he was going to hold up. And I think the other part of that was I think he wanted to be closer to home. And so the Tampa Bay Rays made sense for him and his family at the time. I think that had Morton decided to stay with the Astros, it would have probably affected some other signings, and the trajectory of the Astros wouldn't be the same. So we may not even be in this position if he were here, because no telling, you can go back and change everything, but when you change something like that, that changes a whole bunch of other things that have come about. So where the Astros sit, I think it's okay that they don't have Morton. I don't fear the Astros lineup facing him because, like we said, they have done well. It is a World Series. It is a new series. It is a new day. So what's happened in the past matters, but not necessarily. It's what are you doing for me today? Who's coming out firing? I mean, here's the thing. Here's what I like about the Astros going to this series. You had Chris Sale. You had Nathan Eovaldi come in and pitch really good games, and yet the Astros found a way. I mean, I know Eovaldi came in relief and they knocked him around a little bit. Sale came in, had 7 strikeouts. They still got him out of the game with the 1 home run that he gave up. But they found a way to get through good pitching. And if they can break through, and the Braves even offer up 5 or 6 solid innings from their starters, but break through and score late, I don't see any reason why they come out of this World Series other than victoriously.
Yeah, so I know that the whole thing that we're going to be thinking about is what's going on with Jake Meyers. We don't really have an update, and I don't think we're going to have an update anytime soon. And so let's see what Dusty Baker has to say.
Thoughts by Dusty.
We're not going to announce any of our playoff roster for a while. I'm not at liberty to say right now, but there's still time to determine that.
Yeah, there's 24 hours. Yeah, Dusty's like, we're going to announce it December 14th, 2021.
Yeah, so I think that I don't know what's going on. I mean, from what I understand, they could keep Jake Meyers on the roster as only a pinch runner, as somebody who could possibly hit, but that dude cannot play the field
No,
with
so
shoulder issue. You
no,
cannot
I,
throw
I
the ball.
wouldn't. I wouldn't even put him in as a hitter. Now, I heard something today on MLB Network that you're going to like, Eric. And I cannot remember the guy's name. He's one of the younger guys on MLB Network. He said today that the possibilities being talked about, if Jake Meyers cannot go, of replacing him with Garrett Stubbs, a third catcher, since they're going to the National League and they're going to have pinch hitters and things like that. Where I've said someone like Taylor Jones. Taylor Jones, I like his bat better, but he hasn't played, right? He hasn't played in a while. Garrett Stubbs, last time he was up, was getting some key hits, and having that third catcher may be an advantage, because if he gets on base, or if you pinch run for him, and you pull Maldonado late in the game, you can have Garrett Stubbs as a pinch runner, and then you can have Castro, if he gets around to bat again, you could have Castro come in that catcher spot and hit. So you could really platoon that catching position. So I heard that, and I was like, I can't wait to share this with Eric, that it's being talked about that Stubbs might be on this World Series roster. I just don't see why the Astros would put Meyers on this roster if he's still not able, if he's still having shoulder problems. It
Right.
doesn't. Why would you let the guy hit if he can't throw? That makes no sense to me at all. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an orthopedic surgeon. I don't have any degrees in sports medicine. Common sense tells me Meyers does not make this World Series roster because he's limited.
Speaking of common sense, here's some more Baker on Jake Meyers. You just don't heal overnight. We'll make a decision on him after we have our roster meeting.
So
What?
wait, he doesn't heal like a predator?
No, I guess he's not the predator. Who was that? He said that was
That was Framber Valdez.
okay. Framber Valdez is predator. I guess not Jake Meyers. Jake Meyers is the anti-predator, I guess. So we'll have to go ahead and look at the next man up. And in this situation, definitely for the Brave series. Well, not the Brave series, but the games in Atlanta. I know that we saw Kyle Tucker taking some fly balls in center field. This is something I suggested in the podcast with Sully. I'm like, we're probably
You
going to see
did.
Kyle Tucker play some center field. And I think that this is something we've seen a lot in the National League games, because Alvarez is back. You cannot take him out of the lineup.
And gosh, I've got to get his name and I'll correct it on the podcast later. But he said this same thing. He talked about this very thing, saying that with a cavernous, because didn't you say on the previous podcast, it's the fifth largest outfield in the major leagues, that Tucker would be a little bit more equipped to play that center field, and putting Chas McCormick Michael Brantley in right, and then, good Lord, I just drew a blank. Jordan Alvarez in left.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense, because if you can have Brantley and Alvarez in this lineup, and can we just get the universal DH? Can we just do that so we don't have to worry about this stuff? I know the Braves, are going to take advantage of that, but the Braves aren't as strong as the Astros are deep. But I think it makes sense to put Kyle Tucker in center field, and you more than likely will see that. You more than likely will see Valdez out in left field. I mean, he's been running well, Eric. He looks good. He looks healthy. And he's even said, I play better when I'm in the field. And his bat is an absolute torch right now. It's a flamethrower. You cannot remove that bat from the lineup when you go to Atlanta.
All right, so here's what James Click had to say on this situation. I think Kyle Tucker can play a very good center field, but at the same time, Chas McCormick has been unbelievable in center field. Jake Meyers is obviously able to get it, and Jose Siri is one of the best athletes out there. It's going to be a balance between offense and defense, and we've got to figure that out. We've also looked at it on the podcast earlier throughout the season, is that there's a big difference defensively between Alvarez and Brantley, but there's also a big difference when Alvarez is in the field. He seems to
Yeah.
get better. We saw that with Evan Gaddis when he was playing catcher. I mean, you're just more engaged when you're playing the game.
It's easier because you're in tune with the game, because I mean, it goes all the way down from Little League all the way up to the pros. When you're sitting on the bench the whole game, you're not playing on the field, you're not engaged. And what you could do, Eric, is if late in the game, Chas McCormick isn't really hitting, you can bring in Jose Siri as a pinch hitter, and then you can shift Tucker back to right field and put Jose Siri in center field if you want to do that. That way you put him, I think, in a deeper part of the park where more than likely I think he would do a good job. I know some people find his defense not to be the greatest, but he definitely, I see Jose Siri playing a role in this World Series, whether it's pinch hitting, pinch running. He's going to do something, because, I mean, this guy's the fastest player in Major League Baseball. You've got to find a spot for him. He is 2021's Derek Fisher, I think, with a few more bullets in his arsenal.
Wow. You can get tickets. I mean, I'm just looking at it, and it says you can get tickets as low as $400 to the World Series. I would like to see that. I'm looking at ESPN, and it says tickets as low as $400. Where? Because that's not possible. Anyway, all right.
That was random.
I know. I was looking.
Aftermarket tickets. Here's the thing. I mean, people are complaining about it, but the market's going to dictate.
That's by Vivid Seats, by the way.
Well, here's the thing. Well, let's not get companies involved in it. Everybody's going to offer their scalping prices. I got mine face value, and the market right now says that those standing room only tickets on some sites are going for almost $2,000. Those prices will come down game day. Those prices will not stay at that level. And so if you are listening to our show and you're like, well, I really want to go, what you need to do, number one, you need to find some sort of ticket exchange on one of these social media pages where you find people that are trusted season ticket holders, that are sellers, that aren't going to charge you the extra fees. I mean, that's personally what I would do, and just look in your budget and make sure it's something you can afford. And if it's a once in a lifetime thing, treat it like a vacation and just go and enjoy the game. I'm taking my son, Eric. It is our first ever World Series game. Of all the World Series we've had, I haven't been to a single game yet. And so this is my first game, my son's first game, and I am so looking forward to it. It's going to be just an unbelievable experience. I know that.
Yeah. So I know that we're all looking forward to his matchup. To be honest, there's a few names I know I know most of the lineup for the Braves. I know some of the starting pitchers, but I don't really know a lot of the relievers for the Braves. So that's going to be the big issue that a lot of us are going to face, is getting to know the Braves, because we have not faced this team. I know we haven't faced them. The Astros have not faced them in 2019 or 2020. Definitely have not faced them this year from my memory. I know that the Astros are going to face them next year, because I believe that they're part of the schedule, because I remember saying, oh, yes, it's part of the Astros going back in time and playing that rivalry. But this is going to be a big game. So I'm really excited to see what happens here. At the same time, I'm kind of nervous to see what happens here. I know a lot of people are predicting that the Astros are going to win, but this is a team that we haven't faced, and we haven't faced a lot of these pitchers.
Well, I can tell you, Matzik has been a guy who has, in 10 innings, he has 17 strikeouts.
Right.
Ian Anderson in 12 innings has 12 strikeouts. Max Fried in 16 innings has 17 strikeouts. Morton leads with 19 strikeouts, but Morton's 0-1. Max Fried is 1-1. It's their relief pitchers, Will Smith, Matzik, who are their only 2-0 pitchers who have 2 wins. Will Smith has 4 saves. And so Those are the guys. Also, Mentor. I believe Mentor is actually from Texas. I believe he went to Texas A&M. AJ Mentor, and so he is a Texas guy coming back. Jacob Webb, who is normally a reliable guy, has not really done much in the postseason. They've got Drew Smiley, they've got Luke Jackson, they've got Jesse Chavez, but they have Huascar Yona, who only has one inning, but they do have quite a few strikeouts. Mentor has 11 strikeouts, and so that's the thing. Where they may strike out a lot of batters, this team does not strike out a lot. So I think the Astros counterpunch is sustainable against whatever the Braves throw at them. It doesn't mean that the Braves won't be competitive. I just think that what the Astros have to retaliate with what the Braves bring will basically win out in the end result.
Yes. So let's go. And I know we've already talked about the actual winnings, but what needs to happen? What are the three keys to victory for this game? And I'm going to get us started. Framber Valdez, maybe he doesn't need to pitch 8 innings like he did the other day, but why not? But I think he needs to go 6 to 7 innings, maybe give up 1 run or less, and he needs to dominate the Braves. He needs to set a example and just set a example for the series. The Astros are not going to let the Braves offense, because the Braves offense they do have a good offense. I know the back of their lineup is a little weak. The catching situation, Swanson is not as great right now, but they do have some big pop. I know Austin Riley has kind of come out of nowhere, and they've added some players at the trade deadline. So they do have some good hitters, but I think the Astros lineup is a little bit better. But Framber Valdez has got to come in and just dominate and just basically get the Astros started on the right foot. So key number 1, Framber Valdez.
Okay, I think the second key is the Astros have to stay disciplined when they're at the plate. King Tuck, Jose Altuve, Jordan Bombs, Breggy Bombs, Uncle Mike, and Yuli Lapina Gurriel. Those players right there, if they come out swinging a hot bat, it will take the pressure off of Chas McCormick and Martin Maldonado. If they come out and they stay within themselves and they don't chase pitches off the plate, they stay in the strike zone, they get on base, they extend their pitch count. They cause the pitchers to go deep into counts. And then when they do get 2 outs and men on base, those guys that I mentioned have to bring in runs. So
Right.
They have to stay disciplined. They have to bring in runs. That's my second key for a victory in game 1.
All right. So before I move on to the third key, I just found this. Charlie Morton last year in the World Series allowed 5 runs and 4 1/3 innings in Game 3 loss versus the Dodgers. So yeah, he's good, but he's not always the same Charlie freaking Morton we saw in the 2017.
I remember that because a lot of the commentary was, whoa, the last time he was in a World Series, he 5 dominant innings and all this stuff. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. It's
Right.
who's on I'll say today, if you're listening
Right.
on Tuesday,
Yeah.
on Wednesday, sorry.
So it's got to be the bullpen. The bullpen's got to continue its good ways. I know the bullpen was something that we're all stressing over. Then James Click went out and made these bargain bin and moves, and the bargain bin moves looked like trash for a while there, but now they're looking great. Yimi Garcia had some hiccups a little bit, but he's looking pretty dominant. Phil Maton is looking pretty good at himself, and so the Astros just look like they've kind of figured things out in a bullpen. But the key thing is you can't overuse that bullpen, because the more you overuse them, the more you overexpose them. They tend to maybe you can figure them out. But at the same time, that happened in the Red Sox series, and the Red Sox seem to get worse. So I don't know. So, but the bullpen has got to continue up. And I know this seems like, oh, duh, Eric, Brett, this is basic baseball knowledge, but I'm just super excited about this game. And we'll definitely do another Locked On Astros podcast after tomorrow's game. Hopefully it's Astros victory. Any final thoughts, Brett?
No, I just think that if you go over those 3 keys to victory, Framber extending the inning, extending his innings, the Astros hitters extending at bats and getting 2-out RBIs, and then the relief pitching doing their job. That right there is a recipe for success. And I see the Astros coming out on top in game 1.
Oh, Graveman. I forgot about Kendall Graveman as well. I don't know why I totally
Oh,
forgot
yeah.
about him. But
Oh, no, that's
he's
okay.
been
No,
a totally different pitcher in the playoffs.
he has. But when you mention relief pitching, if anybody's watched this Astros team, they know that you're talking also about Kendall Graveman, because he was so awesome the last time out on the mound, and I expect the same, if not more, in this World Series.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all we got on this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast. Make sure you make the Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. And make sure you check out our friend Sully over the Locked On MLB. We had a great discussion. So if you missed that, go check it out. And make sure you go subscribe to his YouTube channel. Go help him out. He's got only a few subscribers. So go help out our friend Sully and help build up his YouTube channel like y'all have helped us build up our YouTube channel. And go Astros. It's game day. Let's get pumped. Go out there. Do the same thing y'all did for Luis Garcia. Save your hot dogs for the second inning. Go out there. Get your rally towels. Cheer. Go and cheer on Framber Valdez. And this is the World Series, baby. Who knows when you'll get to go to this game again. Tickets are really hot. So enjoy the game. We'll be back tomorrow. Go Astros.